In June 2013, headlines around the world blared with astonishing news: China to build a $50 billion canal in Nicaragua. The announcement was sudden, bold, and seemed to come out of nowhere, instantly capturing the attention of governments, investors, and ordinary people alike. The world's financial centers were stunned. Traders and analysts watched in disbelief as the news scrolled across their screens, realizing that this project could reshape global shipping and trade routes in ways not seen for generations. A project of this scale, led by a mysterious Chinese billionaire named Wang Jing, seemed to appear overnight. Little was known about him outside of China, adding an air of intrigue and uncertainty to the entire venture. For over a century, the Panama Canal had dominated transoceanic shipping in the Americas, serving as the vital link between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Its strategic importance was unquestioned, and its control fiercely guarded. Now, a rival was being fast-tracked. The proposed Nicaragua Canal would cut a new path across Central America, promising to handle even larger ships and greater cargo volumes than its Panamanian counterpart. The announcement sent shockwaves through Washington, D.C. A Chinese-funded canal, 3 times longer than Panama's, was a direct challenge to U.S. influence in the region. American policymakers worried about the strategic implications and the potential shift in regional power dynamics. Intelligence agencies scrambled to learn more about Wang Jing, the enigmatic figure at the project's helm. Who was he, and what were his true intentions? Was this simply a business venture, or something more? For Nicaragua, one of the region's poorest countries, the promise of $50 billion was intoxicating. The prospect of jobs, infrastructure, and international attention offered hope to communities long neglected by economic progress. President Daniel Ortega called it a historic chance to lift the nation out of poverty, a dream centuries in the making. He spoke of a new era for Nicaragua, one where the country would finally take its place on the world stage. The project's cost dwarfed Nicaragua's annual GDP, promising a leap into prosperity. The sheer scale of investment was unprecedented, raising hopes for a transformation that could touch every corner of the nation. The government granted a 50-year concession with an option for another 50 to Wang Jing's HKND group, giving it sweeping powers over land and operations. This agreement effectively handed over control of the canal zone to a foreign company for generations. This wasn't just a construction contract, it was the handover of control over a vast swath of the country. The canal would cut through forests, farmland, and communities, forever altering the landscape and the lives of those who called it home. The world watched, breath held. Was this the dawn of a new era for global trade, or a cautionary tale in the making? The stakes were enormous, and the outcome far from certain. The scale and ambition captivated Nicaragua, but also sowed deep unease. Many wondered what would be gained and what might be lost if the project went ahead. The initial announcement was a masterclass in geopolitical theater. Cameras flashed, officials made bold promises, and the world's media took notice, amplifying the sense of historic change. The terms were stunningly generous, with little tax burden and vast expropriation rights for HKND. Critics warned that Nicaragua was giving away too much, risking its sovereignty for the promise of riches. The stage was set for a clash of dreams, power, and sovereignty. The world waited to see whether this bold vision would unite a continent, or divide it even further. The Nicaragua Canal was envisioned as a colossal engineering feat, stretching an astonishing 172 miles across the country, making it more than 3 times the length of the world-famous Panama Canal, and instantly, one of the longest man-made waterways on the planet. Designed to accommodate the world's largest cargo ships, vessels too big for Panama's locks, it aimed to transform global shipping routes and potentially make Panama's canal obsolete. But this was more than just a canal project. The ambitious $50 billion plan included not only the canal itself, but also 2 state-of-the-art deep-water ports, a sprawling free trade zone, and a brand new international airport to boost connectivity. Massive new roads and bridges were planned to link remote regions, promising to modernize the country's infrastructure. Developers even dreamed of building luxury tourist resorts along the canal's route, hoping to attract visitors from around the world and spark a tourism boom. However, the canal's path would slice directly through Lake Nicaragua, the nation's largest freshwater reservoir and a lifeline for millions, raising enormous environmental concerns. Dredging a 30-mile channel through the lake threatened to disrupt water quality, endanger delicate ecosystems, and put local wildlife at risk. Supporters imagined a future where Nicaragua would become a global trade hub, with cutting-edge infrastructure, thousands of new jobs, and a revitalized economy. The canal was promoted as a silver bullet to end poverty, create opportunity, and launch Nicaragua into a new golden age of prosperity. But from the very beginning, the environmental and social costs loomed large, sparking fierce debate and resistance across the country. For Nicaraguans along the canal route, the project brought hope and were distant ruts and fear. The promise of 50,000 jobs was life-changing in a country plagued by unemployment. But Law 840 gave HKND the power to seize land with minimal compensation, threatening homes, farms, and indigenous territories. Lake Nicaragua, the nation's water lifeline, faced contamination and ecological disaster. Fishermen and farmers feared for their livelihoods. Environmentalists warned of irreversible damage. Communities split. Some saw opportunity, others saw betrayal. Protests erupted, led by those who felt voiceless in the process. The canal became a personal struggle over land, water, and identity. The dream of prosperity collided with the fear of loss. At the center was Wang Jing, a little-known Chinese billionaire and chairman of HKND. He promised to finance and oversee the canal, but his background raised eyebrows. Wang's fortune came from telecom, not infrastructure, and his net worth was far below the project's cost. Was he a true visionary, or a front for more powerful interests? Many suspected the Chinese government was the real force behind the canal, despite official denials. The project's geopolitical implications aligned perfectly with China's global ambitions. Wang's role provided plausible deniability for Beijing, keeping the US guessing. The ambiguity fueled skepticism and suspicion worldwide. The canal was seen less as Wang's dream and more as China's strategic move. The questions around Wang Jing shaped the world's view of the project from the start. The US saw the canal as a direct challenge to its dominance in the Americas. Washington's response was cautious, but alarm bells rang behind the scenes. Was this a commercial venture or a military foothold for China? Global shipping companies were intrigued but wary, waiting to see if the canal would materialize. Environmental groups condemned the project, warning of catastrophic damage to Lake Nicaragua and vital rainforests. International campaigns pressured Nicaragua and potential investors, framing the canal as ecological vandalism. The project's risks, political, financial, and environmental, made it a global flashpoint. The canal's fate became entangled in superpower rivalry and environmental activism. The world watched, uncertain if the promise would ever become reality. The Nicaragua Canal was a direct threat to Panama's identity and economy. Panama had just expanded its own canal, only to face a rival designed for even larger ships. The new canal could handle vessels far bigger than Panama's, potentially making the older route obsolete for the largest ships. This threatened to reroute global trade and disrupt established supply chains. U.S. East Coast ports, which had invested heavily to accommodate Panama's expansion, faced uncertainty. Panama's officials questioned the Nicaraguan project's viability and highlighted their own reliability. They argued the world didn't need two canals so close together. The competition was about more than business. It was a battle for legitimacy. The specter of the Nicaraguan Canal haunted Panama's future. The rivalry underscored the high stakes of global shipping. Ortega and Wang Jing promised a transformed Nicaragua, double the GDP, hundreds of thousands of jobs, and modern infrastructure. The canal was sold as national redemption, a leap into prosperity, but critics saw a neo-colonial land grab, a 100-year lease, sweeping expropriation powers, and near-total control for HKND. The economic risks were huge, no clear funding, and doubts about profitability. If the project failed, Nicaragua could be left with debt and environmental ruin. The debate became a high-stakes gamble: prosperity or disaster. Was it worth risking Lake Nicaragua and national sovereignty for uncertain rewards? Supporters called it bold vision, opponents called it too high a price. The nation was divided by hope and fear. The canal's grand vision quickly unraveled. The 2014 inauguration was mostly symbolic. Real construction never began. Wang Jing's fortune collapsed in the 2015 Chinese stock market crash, vaporizing promised funding. The Chinese government kept its distance, and other investors never materialized. On the ground, opposition grew. Farmers, indigenous leaders, and environmentalists united in protest. Nearly 100 marches demanded repeal of Law 840 and protection of land rights. The government's harsh response only fueled resistance and drew global attention. Environmental assessments were widely criticized as inadequate. The project became toxic, financially, politically, and ecologically. The canal stalled, undone by its own contradictions. Today, the Nicaragua Canal is a ghost project, its grand vision now reduced to silence and decay, a stark contrast to the bustling activity once promised here. HKND's offices are shuttered, their logos fading in the tropical sun, and the bold promises that once filled headlines have quietly faded into memory. Only a few miles of dirt road, now overgrown and slowly reclaimed by the jungle, remain as the sole evidence of what was once a $50 billion dream to reshape global trade. The canal stands as a monument to the vast gap between human ambition and the harsh realities of economics, politics, and nature. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of ignoring local voices, environmental risks, and the complex needs of a nation's people. Yet, its legacy is more than just failure. It marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing rivalry between the United States and China for influence in Latin America. The project made China's ambitions in Latin America undeniable, even in defeat, signaling to the world that the region was now a stage for global power plays. For Nicaragua, the anti-canal movement became a powerful symbol of resistance, sparking a democratic awakening and uniting communities in defense of their land and future. The country was ultimately spared an environmental catastrophe, its natural beauty preserved, but it was also left with the scars of broken promises and dashed hopes. Was it a lost opportunity for prosperity, or a disaster narrowly averted? The debate continues in homes and communities across Nicaragua. The answer depends on whom you ask, each perspective shaped by personal experience, dreams, and fears for the future. The Ghost Canal lingers in the national memory, a haunting reminder of what might have been, for better or for worse, and a lesson for generations to come.